Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome you to the Tuesday, August the 3rd, Macon-Bibb County Commission meetings. And time is now 6 o'clock, and I'd like to officially welcome you here and those at home and call this meeting to order. We do have several items on the agenda tonight, but our first item, as always, is call this to order, and we'll begin with our prayer tonight. Our prayer will be led tonight by our own Charles Brooks, who's our Director of Engineering. So those of you who can and will, please stand and bow your head, and that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
With me. Dear God in heaven, thank you for allowing the doors of this building to be open, that we may congregate under your sanction. We come to you this evening asking for your blessing and guidance in matters at hand. We ask that you would clearly show us how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiasm. Give us desire to find ways to excel. Help us to work together and encourage each other. We ask not that any challenge be taken away, but rather give us strength and courage to face our challenges. And dear God, I pray for a hedge of protection around this community and the leaders of this community. We ask that if there's any heart that's hardened, that you soften it. Dear God, we just want to prosper in your name. We ask that you keep us safe till the next time we meet again. These things I ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we have our attorney, Michael McNeil, to come up on a film project announcement.
Good evening, Commissioners. I just wanted to let the Commission know that we have a film project coming this week from Macon-Bibb Productions. They're going to be filming a television series in town, and we'll be closing down Poplar Street between 5th Street and 6th Street, just the tunnel there at Poplar Street, on Friday the 6th. It'll be a day-long closure. And then next week on the 9th and on the 12th, they'll be closing the, which is Monday and Thursday, they'll be closing the skate park at Carolyn Creighton Park. And so most of the series is going to be done at the Coliseum, but they just have these few limited scenes where they're closing some public facilities. So I wanted to let y'all know that this is coming. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Attorney McNeil, for that. We're going to go ahead and move on to our approval of the minutes. This is the approval of minutes from the July 20th, 2021 regular commission meeting. Can I get a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Clark, second by Commissioner Bronson. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We're going to move on to a presentation tonight for proclamation. That's National Black Business Month. At this time, I would like to call those members present for the presentation and proclamation, including Commissioner Lucas. You're going to be reading that tonight? Okay, if you'll go ahead and be in your place.
I'll turn it this way for you. Or you can address the crowd.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to call on Reverend Dr. Henry Ficklin, Ms. Sharice Stevens, and others who are here representing Black businesses. And just as an aside, I happen to have been the owner of a small Black business, EL High School Academy, for 12 years now. And want to say that starting a business is not easy. It is not easy for someone who knows how to operate a business, nor is it easy for someone who even has the cash, has the resources to get your business up and going. And it does take you a full year, and you better be prepared to fund yourself for that first year, because otherwise you're going you're going down. And so my other point is the things that we're talking about as far as Black and minority-owned businesses also pertains to other businesses as well. So, on behalf of Macon-Bibb's Consolidated Government, it's my honor to read this proclamation and to present it from the Office of the Mayor, Macon-Bibb County, Georgia. And it reads, whereas John William Templeton, a historian, and Frederick E. Jordan Sr., a civil engineer, founded Black Business Month in 2004 to drive the policy agenda affecting African American businesses, an initiative to recognize Black-owned businesses across the country and highlight their importance to the community and the national economy. And whereas Black business owners account for about 10% of U.S. businesses and about 30% of all minority-owned businesses, according to the United States Census Bureau, which amounts to approximately 2 million companies owned by African Americans. And whereas nearly 40% of Black-owned businesses are in healthcare and social assistance, repair and maintenance, and personal and laundry services. And other categories include advertising firms, auto dealerships, consulting services, restaurants, barbershops, beauty salons, and more. And whereas August is National Black Business Month, and Black-owned businesses are recognized across the country and in Macon-Bibb County, we join in celebrating and recognizing the importance of Black and brown businesses in our local community. And whereas in 2021, National Black Business Month is particularly, as A.C. Havisham likes to say, particularly important given the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on Black communities, who already face challenges in starting, running, and growing their companies. And whereas the Macon-Bibb Office of Small Business Affairs will host events, spotlight companies, and provide resources to small business owners and entrepreneurs, encouraging the community to join the celebration supporting Black-owned businesses and other entrepreneurs beyond this month. Now, therefore, the Mayor, the Honorable Lester M. Miller, does hereby proclaim August 2021 as National Black Business Month. You can clap. National Black Business Month in Macon-Bibb County, and he urges all citizens to recognize the valuable contributions and importance to our community and economy of Black businesses. And witness whereof, he has hereunto set his hand and caused the seal of Macon-Bibb's Consolidated Government to be affixed. It's my honor as an elected representative from District 3 to present this. It was my honor to read it, and it's my honor to present it to all of you who have a big task ahead of you. Sharice, Mayor, were you going to?
Apologize. I was letting you handle that. I left my mask in my office there, but you did a wonderful job, and certainly I appreciate it. Sharice, if you want to make any remarks, feel free to do that on my behalf.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I am humbled to serve Macon-Bibb County as the Office of Small Business Affairs Director. One thing that Mayor Miller tasked me to do, not only to work hard and be data-driven, but to have impact. And that's what we're trying to do for this month, is have impact. We have representative from the Middle Georgia Black Pages, my counterpart from Fort Valley, listening women, and then young entrepreneurs like Marlon and Camden. Oh, Mr. Mike Hill. Thank you. He's been a blessing to us. But we just want you to celebrate, no matter what your race is, celebrate with us this entire month. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Good evening, Macon-Bibb. I'm Michael Hill, CEO and President of the Marketplace. Looking forward to working, having many great projects that we can do to uplift the Macon as a whole. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gary Lee. I'm the Executive Director for Economic Development for Fort Valley State and the City of Fort Valley. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Camden Stevens, son of Cherie Stevens, this amazing woman. Thank you. I'm just a upstarter, so I'm just helping her with You Create, with the cycling group, and trying to work on fitness groups as well. So thank you guys, and that's who I am.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marlon Baldwin. I'm a local entrepreneur and a financial representative with New York Life. Thank you all for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission, for recognizing this important day in our country. I'm Alex Habersham, publisher of the Macon Middle Georgia Black Pages.
Thank you, Mr. Habersham. Thank you all for being here again. At this time, we're going to move on. We have a public comments on agenda items, and I have not received any public comments on agenda items tonight. We do have at least one on non-agenda items that we'll get to toward the end of the meeting. We're going to move right into our new business. We have one item on the new business tonight, specifically, actually two items. The first item, if you'll remember, new alcohol beverage license for Tom's Mart. At our previous committee meeting, the recommendation was do not pass. Coming out of the committee, we have some new information on that we want to share with you, an update, and then determine what the commission would like to do or how would you like to move forward at this time. So at this time, I've asked our attorney, Frank Howard, to give us that update, and we'll make a decision accordingly.
Good evening, commissioners. I'm Assistant County Attorney Frank Howard, and I just wanted to briefly describe what was going on with the Tom Mart license that I recommended denial for previously. They submitted their application for a location, a malt beverage package to go license at 1225 Gray Highway, and represented that they were a food mart. I personally inspected that location on July 2nd and determined that the location was not operating as a food mart, was operating as a Vice Mart, and at that time recommended denial of the license because one, Vice Marts are not allowed to receive alcohol license under the current law, and two, misrepresenting as a food mart is grounds for denial of license as well. Since that time, the owners and agent has contacted me to state that they have received a Georgia Agricultural Department food sales establishment license effective June 30th, 2021, and that they intend to operate as a food mart. However, upon my second inspection, July 27th, 2021, the business was still operating as a Vice Mart with no fresh food offerings. Co-am machines were there, lottery, and other characteristics of a Vice Mart. So at this time, I cannot recommend approval of this license. I can recommend denial or the commission at its discretion may choose to table this matter for 30 days to allow the Tom Mart an opportunity to acquire and sell the items necessary to operate as a food mart.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney. Mayor Pro Tem Carr, you had a question?
So just to be clear, the technical posture of the application as it stands right now is no different than when it was when the recommendation to the committee of the whole was made to deny. Am I correct in that?
That is correct.
Okay. And what the original reasons, you just stated the original reasons for the denial recommendation, which is they were operating as a Vice Mart, they weren't operating with they weren't offering fresh food. And is it of your opinion that they misrepresented that a second time by saying that they intended to apply as a food mart later on?
I'm not going to I'm not going to have an opinion at this time on that matter. I did see that they acquired this license at effective June 30th, 2021, the food sales establishment license. However, on July 27th, 2021, the store was still operating as a Vice Mart with no fresh food offered. So I'm going to leave it to the commission to have an opinion one way or the other on that matter.
And I got one more question. If we deny tonight, what remedy do they have to reapply as a Vice Mart? If we deny instead of table?
The normal process, they can appeal to the Superior Court. They can appeal the denial.
Attorney Groover?
But as it stands now, in terms of what the commission is looking at, it is being operated as a Vice Mart now.
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, at the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion to deny.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. We'll hear from Commissioner Tillman.
I was gonna go a step further in asking, because you told us twice, tried to deceive us, that we not only deny, but we probably need to start looking at suspending business licenses as well at some point, because it's total deceit. And these attorneys that represent Macon-Bibb represent us and will have to represent us in these cases. And it's unusual sometimes for the attorney to take an initiative to go out and look into a business. That's usually not the norm. We appreciate you doing that to keep us in order. And so I would also second that motion, but I don't know if at this time we can probably talk about that in the future, but I think we ought to go a step further and suspending licenses sometimes, because if they're operating in this manner already, then who's to say we can't have our attorneys run back and forth to the store to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. There's too many businesses that's doing the right thing, and we don't have time to just have our attorneys or anybody running back and forth to these businesses. So if you're not going to do right, we need to make it a little bit harsher punishment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Commissioner Jones?
Attorney Howard, so when you went back on July the 27th, did you talk with any personnel at that point and say, you've shown me you've acquired the license, so where is the food?
I did not speak with any staff or personnel or persons at the property when I made that second inspection.
But you've been shown a permit to sell food by who? Their real estate agent or their lawyer or who?
That was the Georgia Department of Agriculture, and I called to confirm that license was in fact acquired by the owner and agent.
So there's no conversation with the owner or the operator as to, well, it takes me 3 weeks to get stocked or anything like that?
I did speak with the owner and agent. I believe it was approximately July 9th. They came into the government center, and I informed me that they had this license and that they were going to have fresh food available at a later date. They did not give a specified date, but that's the extent of any such conversation I had with them.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. We do have a motion and second to deny the alcohol beverage license for Tom's Mart. Do you have any other discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of denying the motion for renewal license for Tom's Mart, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries, and we'll ask the attorney to take the appropriate action. There is an appeal process, I understand, for the business owner. That's correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, sir. This time we're going to move on to item B, 8 new business, item B. I'm going to ask Attorney McNeil to come up, but what I'd like to do is just read what item B is, entertain a motion and second, and if there's anybody else who would like to sponsor this, please let us know at that time. I'll have the attorney explain briefly about what this is, and we have a slide to show you at that time. So at this time, I'll go ahead and read that. This is an ordinance to appropriate up to $800,000 to be paid from the American Rescue Plan Act for the purpose of funding a vaccination incentive program for all employees of Macon-Bibb County payroll. If your name is listed on there as a sponsor, that is okay. If it's not, please let us know. That is my motion. Can I get a second? Got a second by Pro Tem Clark. This time I ask our attorney to give us an explanation about what this is, and then I'll make a comment in that regard, as well as show you a slide that we put together and entertain any questions. So Attorney McNeil, we'll hear from you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is an ordinance to create a program, to create a vaccination incentive program for employees of Macon-Bibb County. This covers all employees that are paid through our payroll processing system through our finance department. So it would include, employees of constitutional officers and things like that, as long as they're paid through the county system. Every full-time employee that's able to demonstrate to our Human Resources Department that they've personally received either both doses of a 2-dose COVID-19 vaccine series or a 1-dose COVID-19 vaccine, they have to complete it by September 30th, will receive a incentive payment of $500, and every part-time employee that can do that same thing will receive an incentive payment of $250. And just as with other types of bonus programs, this will be ordinarily taxable as wages, but it will not count towards compensation for pension purposes.
Thank you, Attorney McNeil.
Yes, sir.
And this item, I want to let you know this is a screen that we have up here to discuss just briefly, and wanted to give you some data that we have based on last year. A couple of things I wanted to know is I wanted to take our political hats off, take our partisanship off, and leave it at the door. And if you can think about nothing else other than the safety and well-being of our citizens, think about the financial impact that we have, particularly in a time where we're trying to do a pay scale for our men and women in public safety. And you'll understand that when we get through talking. These are the numbers that we had them pull. The $2.5 million was money we had to pay for people to quote unquote telework or not work at all last year during COVID for a government shutdown. This is what happens in a government shutdown. We pay the money, don't get the services. Included in that number, you'll see $827,000 of Parks and Recreation where we closed, but still paid all of our employees, but we did not provide the services. And of course, as part of our MVP program, we've been hearing a lot how kids need something to do. We need to have activities for them, and we don't want to get into a situation where we have to close the recreation centers again. That's a real number, $2.5 million. The next number is the healthcare number, directly pulled from our healthcare providers. You'll see a figure of $2,041,709. Just to give you an example of what that is, that's $1,497,505 of inpatient treatment, $63,028 of outpatient treatment, $93,685 of emergency department treatment, and $387,491 for professional services, professional doctors. That's a total of $2,041,709. Those are real numbers. We're a self-insured government in our health insurance plan, and this is what we paid out of pocket. The EMA is $347,000 that we pay for PPP, and that for our PPE and for our employees. Facilities management for the extra cleaning for COVID and cost that we had to do was $214,420. And COVID annual sick leave, which has expired, there's no longer going to have that, but as of last year, $57,129.43 for a total of about $5.2 million. We believe it's a good use for the $800,000 if we use it all. As you can imagine, with 1,600 employees, some of those are part-time. Not everybody's going to get it, and not everybody's going to be full-time, but we wanted to have that total amount for $800,000 there as a cap. We believe there's going to be a substantial savings from Macon-Bibb County it's for no other reason that we would save this money here by leading by example and having all of our citizens or our employees get vaccinated. We want to strongly encourage them to do that. We're going to work out the details. If this passes, they'll have an email going out tonight or in the morning telling them exactly what they need to provide, who they need to provide it to, and when they can expect payment. We want to encourage all of our employees to get vaccinated for a whole bunch of reasons. But if nothing else, look at the financial implications of that. So we do have a motion and a second. I see a question from Commissioner Tillman.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate that. And I know this is coming from the top at the White House and trickling down to us. You know, and they said politics, everything is local. You said leave politics out of it. So the real issue is there are a lot of folks that have lost family members to COVID, and it's real. I don't like the fact that we're going to pay somebody for bad behavior. We don't pay children to act good in school. We shouldn't have to pay grown-ass adults to go and get a COVID test.
That's your comment?
That's it.
Okay. Appreciate that comment. I appreciate your effort to get people vaccinated. Commissioner Wynn?
I share the sentiment that Commissioner Tillman just said, but one thing I can say is this money would not be coming out of our general fund. That's the only good thing I can say about it. I also agree that you shouldn't have to pay people to do the right thing for themselves, for their family, for their community, for the citizens of this area. You should do it because it's the right thing to do, and we should not pay people to do that. We should not pay people. We should not dangle this $500 and $250 out to the rest of the employees that haven't gotten their vaccinations. That's bribery to me. That's sending out the wrong message. It's setting a precedent. Well, if you say, okay, you've worked all year long, you've been a good employee, you've not missed a day, you've come in on time, done your job, okay, so we're going to give you a little incentive, you know, because you've done a good job, you've done the right thing. The right thing is to get a vaccine, get a vaccination, and you shouldn't help, I'm not going to use the same word, but you shouldn't have to tell grown people to do what is right here. We shouldn't pay them to do what is right here. I think this, again, sets the wrong precedent. I think that we should not do this. I think that people should, and besides that, for whatever reason they haven't gotten the vaccine, whether it be religious, whether it be political, whether it be personal, this money is not going to change their mind. I don't think. I can think of a lot of good things to do with this up to $800,000 besides give people $500 because they had a shot or dangle out $500 to take the shot. Folks, that's wrong. That's just wrong. And I am against this.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. I certainly appreciate your opinions. I think that we give you 5 billion reasons to support this. I think we give people a $1,000 bonus sometimes to hire a police officer, and certainly you dangling $1,000 out there for them to risk their life every day. But like I said, we're looking at the cost last year. We certainly want to implement a pay scale for our police officers. We think this will go a long way to do that. This is rescue money. We believe we're about saving lives, and we want to lead by example. We're not asking to mandate. We certainly could do that, the mandate as well. Other companies have done that. We haven't even done the mask mandate. We're trying to incentivize instead of penalize, and I think that's something that we want to do. But at this
I have
time,
one more
Commissioner
thing to
Wynn,
say before
Commissioner
you
Wynn,
cut me off.
Commissioner Wynn, you wasn't through?
I had not finished.
Okay. I could have sworn you were through. I'll let you talk, and then I'll move on to Commissioner Lucas.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Mayor. When we wanted to give one of our employees a little bonus last year, and I'm going to call it a bonus, it was said that we couldn't do that because it's a gratuity. What's the difference between this bonus, which is what I'm calling it, between that and the gratuity? Because we couldn't do that last year, not under your leadership. But explain to me and the public what the gratuity is and why we couldn't give it to somebody that really done a good job here and done the right job when our staff And this is, we're giving people $500 for just taking a shot? Explain to me about a gratuity.
Sure, I'll
in the
let the
public.
Attorney McNeil, because he's talked a lot about gratuities there. Number one, this is specifically allowed under the ARP, so that's one reason, but I'll let him address the gratuity issue.
Right, so there's two reasons why the gratuities clause doesn't apply here. The first, to Mayor's point, because this is allowed under a federal funding program, the federal law, there's a supremacy clause in the U.S. Constitution that says federal law is superior to state law. So even though the gratuities clause is in the Georgia Constitution, where a federal law says we can spend the money in a certain way, we can, notwithstanding the gratuities clause. The second reason is because this concerns future behavior. And so under the gratuities clause, even with Georgia funding, we're not allowed to pay an employee extra money for work that they've performed in the past, but we can increase the amount that we will pay them or pay them for certain behavior in the future. And so because this is set up as a program based on behavior between if this passes, between the time this commission votes and September 30th, it's not based on behavior that's happened in the past.
Well,
then you
well,
can
it
pay for
is
that.
based on behavior based in the past. If we pay the ones that have already gotten the vaccine, right? They've already done their work. So it's in the past. What are you saying?
Nobody has gone to our HR office and registered with the county as being a vaccinated employee. We just haven't kept any records of that at all as a government.
But that doesn't matter. They've already gotten the vaccine. It's been the past.
You can pay them to bring you the records, ma'am. That's the difference. You can pay them for a future act, which is bringing the records, and because it's federal money, that doesn't apply anyway.
And Mr. Mayor, I know that you're going to comment to each of us that want to disagree with you, and I would like you to hold off your comments till each one of us did our own discussion about this, because I know you're going to have arguments to everything. You always do. You always seem to get the last word, but I'm going to ask you not to do that today.
I am the chair.
Thank you. I know.
Are you through, Ms. Wynn?
Yes, I'm through.
Okay. I will get the last word. Commissioner Lucas, you ready?
Thank you very much. I don't know whether you've been following the numbers or not, but if you've been looking at the numbers of the increase in illnesses and deaths, especially in light of the Delta variant, it is very, very disturbing to me. Our children have gone back to school, and it's a kind of an emergency situation. It's a thing where you just don't know where this thing is. I am worried to death about my grandchildren coming into contact with someone who is a carrier of the disease. I am concerned about the elderly, and I guess I'm in that category, the more mature citizens who have underlying situations that they're dealing with. We are in an emergency, and I think anything that we can do, and we are fortunate that we do have this as an option, because we could just continue begging and pleading with folks to do the right thing, and it's obvious that that has not worked. And then there are people who are every day discouraging people from making good decisions. They're telling people, don't get the vaccine, don't trust the vaccine. So you've got these competing forces. So if I could vote for this a bunch of times, I would. Unfortunately, I can only vote one time, but I'm going to cast my vote for it, because I think it gives us one more thing that we can use to increase the numbers of people who are vaccinated. It also allows Macon-Bibb's government to continue functioning, because your chances are greater that you'll escape hurt, harm, and danger if you are vaccinated than if you are not. So I just think this is a good deal, and it also rewards our employees. And folks who talk about rewarding, it's like rewarding children for doing stuff. We reward them all the time for good stuff. So this is good stuff. And whether they are responsible or not is I mean, that's out of the discussion. It doesn't matter. This is an incentive for folks to get vaccinated, and it also says to our employees, here's a little extra something for you. It's good citizenship. So I'm going to eagerly vote for this and hope that we can come up with some other things that will incentivize more of our citizens to make good decisions.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. Commissioner Tillman, you had a follow-up?
Yes, sir. I wish and hope we can come up with additional ways to incentivize folks as opposed to paying them. Only in the United States of America where we dangle cash for things to get our folks to do stuff. For 10 years, there was a $25 million bounty on Osama bin Laden, and nobody turned him in. Nobody in the world for $25 million. And now we're going to pay somebody. I just wish my mom and my auntie were still here to get the shot. I'm sure they would get the shot if they was blessed enough to know that they had COVID before they passed. And my best friend, Big George, 3. All these folks that we know that's passed, I think we ought to come up with another way to incentivize folks, Mr. Mayor. And I think a order of a mandate possibly first. We need to identify those folks that have not been vaccinated to ask and find out why they have not been vaccinated before we just start dangling funds. I don't think it's going to incentivize them. We need to find out why they're not. All these people that have died, millions and millions, and that doesn't send a message. Everybody knows somebody in their family, friend, or somebody they're close to that have died from COVID. And I understand what we're trying to do, and yes, we need to do something. I just don't know if this is it, and I just don't agree with it. Thank you.
Thank you again. Commissioner Pro Tem Clark.
Yes, thank you for bringing this forward, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to take the time. I'm happy to support this, but I wanted to take a second to just point out some of the numbers that are in our North Central Health District reports that we get on a 2-week basis, a daily basis, based on 2 weeks of data. Commissioner Lucas and I both serve on the Board of Health, and I just kind of thought this was, appropriate to contextualize what we're going through. 34% of Bibb County is fully vaccinated. 39% of us have received at least our first shot. In the past 60 days, we've seen a 363% increase in cases of COVID-19. The vast majority of these cases are in the population of our unvaccinated neighbors. We've seen a 9% increase in the past 2 weeks in hospitalizations. We've seen a 3% increase in the past 2 weeks of deaths. The median age of the deaths are 74. The median age of the new cases is 41. And of the deaths that were hospitalized in the past 2 weeks, we've seen a 69.5% increase in those numbers for a total of 1,014 people. Thank you.
Thank you, Pro Tem Clark. Commissioner Jones?
Sir, just 2 or 3 comments. First of all, there's nothing political about it, so I reject that. There's nothing political about whether you want the shot, or, as far as I'm concerned. Totally against mandates. I'm glad we're not talking about mandates. Totally against that. This country was founded because people didn't like mandates, whether it had to do with religion or whatever. I would be interested to know the 800,000. Can you give a breakdown on how that?
The 800,000 is 1,600 employees, $500. We know it's not going to be every employee, and they're not all full-time, but we want to make sure we set up to 800,000. It could be 400,000 or 300 or 500, but we want to make sure if every single person was full-time, they wanted to do that, we would have the funds capable of doing that.
think because of the American Rescue Plan, which gives, I would not be in favor of it for doing it out of general fund, but we've got some, we're kind of in a false economy right now, and that'll become more and more clear as the months go by. But we've got money falling from the skies now, so I'm not opposed to offering it as an incentive. I think each individual needs to make their own personal health decision. So I will probably vote in favor of it. There's nothing political about it. I'm not in favor of mandates. If we were talking about mandates, I'd be saying heck no. But
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Wynn?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's very unusual when the opposite ends of the horseshoe agree on something. So with Commissioner Tillman and I. Just a question from Mayor Pro Tem Clark. You gave a lot of numbers. Do you have any numbers on the people that survived and recovered from COVID? We talk about all the bad numbers, the people that got sick, the people that died, the people that are ill. But I want to know how many people are recovering after going through COVID. I still think this is not the way to spend this money that's given to us. By the way, this money is not just free money. It comes out of, it'll come back to the federal taxpayers here. That means a lot of us here. I also want to know where the commissioners fall in here as far as we're paid by the county. I don't know if we fall in here. Basically, you haven't addressed that. And I just think that, again, you shouldn't have to tell grown-ups what to do that's right to take care of yourself. And dangling money out there is not the answer, folks. Not the answer.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn.
I want to know where we fall in, though. Michael?
Yes, Commissioner. Under the code, commissioners are considered part-time employees.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. We do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, no. Was that Wynn and Tillman? Is that correct on the nose? Okay, looks like it passes 6-2. All right, thank you. We're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is old business. We have a consent agenda. That consent agenda is items A through N. That's my motion. Can I get a second to approve? Got a second by Commissioner Howell. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Commissioner Lucas, you always a day late.
Please, yes. I just wanted you to mention number 10B.
You want me
Because
to
I
mention?
think that's important. It's on the cemeteries.
Sure, Commissioner. Item 10B was we got a lot of calls from cemeteries because we know that the cemetery is overgrown. We were not able to use inmate labor for the last 18 months, which put us severely behind, and using our own employees also put a stress on keeping all of the county cut. So we did a RFP to get companies to provide that service for us, and we have selected a company to do that for $93,500, and they're going to be cutting Rose Hill, Evergreen, and Fort Hill cemeteries coming out of our parks and beautification funds. And that item has passed unanimously by all commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner. We do have, we don't have any need to go into executive session tonight for sure. We've got several items on the refer to committee of the whole. And just briefly, since there's only a few of those, we've got one, an appropriation that we're asking to make, and we'll do a presentation on community safety and employee retention by rewarding experienced public safety employees and salary increases tied to years of service. This will be a conversation that we have together about finally taking care of that longevity piece for retaining and retention for our public safety. And we'll tell you who those public safety officers are. We also have item B, which is going to be appropriate a minimum wage for Macon-Bibb County Consolidated Government employees to reach $15 an hour by the calendar year 2023. That will be a January of 2022 would bring all employees to $14. In January 2023, all employees, the lowest amount would be $15. At that time, we'll look at compression for all those that are making $15 already. So we can address all that and be through with the pay scale completely for all of our employees. Item C is a ordinance reducing the millage rate from 20.331 to 19.901 mills to be levied and assessed. That has started running in the paper, I believe, today. It'll run for its time period, and we'll be prepared to discuss that at our August the 17th meeting in 2 weeks. As you recall, we will not have a committee meeting next Tuesday because we have GMA, and that meeting has been canceled. Item D is a resolution approval for installation of 2 streetlights, Misty Valley Drive pursuant to Article 10. That will be something that we'll discuss as well and vote on. And then we'll have an appointment to the Fort Hawkins Board that I need to make. I know Commissioner Bronson has a streetlight he wants to bring for us as well. And then Commissioner Lucas and myself are working on the Dorian's Law. Is that right? Did I say that right? Irene, I'm sorry. I apologize. Irene Law, and we have located some funding for sidewalks and lighting in that area. And we'll be discussing, hopefully preparing a resolution or ordinance at our next meeting for that. So this time we have no need to go into executive session. Commissioner Tillman, I'm sorry, you had your hand up?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I want to go back to the previous resolution, if I can. In the language, if it doesn't say, I'd like to amend it to say they receive the incentive after the second shot.
We set that up already.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Those who already had their shots can submit the documentation and get their first installment in August. Those who haven't had their shots at all, if they're getting completed by September the 30th, they can complete their documentation. Yes, sir.
I'll talk to you after the meeting.
Okay. We do have no need to go into executive session tonight, but we do have one public comment on non-agenda items, and thank you very much for being patient tonight. We have Tim Obergoner at 473 Cherry Street, Macon, Georgia, wants to speak in regards to the Thirsty Turtle. If you may approach, Tim. You do have 5 minutes to speak, and that time will begin as soon as you start speaking. And I ask you to address all your comments to the chair, which will be myself, and not to address any personnel issues, sir. Thank you for being here tonight. You may begin.
Mayor, Commissioners, if it's okay, I'd like to pass out a handout for you to have that you can follow along. I've made some notes, and I'd like each of you to have them. Lauren will bring them around. I'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to talk about the Thirsty Turtle. I know that many of you have heard of the place. I haven't been very vocal about what's been going on, and I just want to bring some truth to the floor and ask you to consider it. And just for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to ask you one favor. Ask yourself, what would happen if Tim Obergoner is actually standing in front of you telling the truth? Because the truth hasn't been brought out, and it's a real problem, because it's going to ask us to ask it's going to force us to ask some other questions about things that are going on. According to our county leaders, who've been quoted by numerous TV and other media outlets, the Thirsty Turtle is the most violent and deadliest club in Middle Georgia. I'm going to go on record as saying that there have been no emergency services ever called to the inside of the Thirsty Turtle, not one time. This is the deadliest and most violent club in Middle Georgia, has never had an ambulance worker called inside, not one time. And just before we all get carried away with us just get rid of the Thirsty Turtle because it's a blight on us, I brought a few folks with me. They'll raise their hands for just a minute. It's not everybody that works there. There's, on any given night, between 20 and 25 people there. They're responsible for feeding about 42 people in Bibb County. Many of them are working mothers. Some of them are single fathers. And an overreaching politician from Bibb County needlessly put them out of business and out of work right before Christmas and did it again a week ago. There's no due process, no right for an appeal. And here we are. I want to take you back real quick to November 27th of 2020. There was a 911 call came in, and I'm on slide 3 if y'all want to follow along. Approximately 2:45. The Thirsty Turtle was closed at 2:30. There was not anybody in the building other than staff. 911 caller is Newton Collier. He's back there in a purple shirt. We'll talk about Mr. Collier in just a minute. There was no problem that had been pushed outside the building. There was nothing. Our staff and all the customers, even commenters on WGXA's website, who was first and foremost with the story here, said it was a delightfully relaxed night. It's a little bit unusual in the club business because people usually get amped up around holidays. We try to prepare for it. There wasn't anything to be amped up about or for or ready for. It was a great night. We had a good time. The establishment was closed and had been closed when Mr. Collier, who made the first 911 call, called in. Next page, there's a sheriff's version of events. The sheriff wants you to believe that there was a fight that had been pushed outside the Thirsty Turtle. Some shooting started and then continued up Cherry Street, where Miss Mann and Miss Brianna were gunned down at the corner of Cherry Street next to the Macon Telegraph building, and then the assailants left. Okay? The sheriff would also like you to believe that there were a couple of stabbings or a slashing inside the building that night that predicated the fight. That the shooting started there, moved up the street. Now, Mr. Collier, if you look at the next page where it says the rest of the story, I'll show you where Mr. Collier lives. I didn't ask him if I could show you where he lives. That's where he lives. You remember where the Acapulco restaurant was? Mr. Collier lives right above where the front door of it was. He had a front row seat to where this situation actually started, which is across 3rd Street Park, looking at the side of the of the Macon Telegraph building. He called in. They are shooting here. That's where the shooting started. Mr. Collier will tell you that to date, he has never been interviewed by the Sheriff's Department, not one time. He's the eyewitness to the killing on that night. He's the eyewitness to what was then the most horrible shooting in downtown Macon, Georgia, and he is yet to be interviewed by anyone who investigated the crime, not one person. I can tell you that 2 days later, while I was down in front of Bossa Nova,
1 minute.
we were picking up shell casings. They'd never been picked up. The whole thing was blamed on the Thirsty Turtle. If you'll flip over to the next stage, or the next page, here's the rest of the story. There were 2 vehicles circulating the block. They started shooting at the corner of Macon Telegraph. They continued down Cherry Street, and we're being blamed for that. If you'll flip over to the next slide, very similar. What the sheriff wants you to believe is there was a fight inside the Thirsty Turtle that led to a shooting outside at MLK and Cherry. The truth is, if you'll go to the next slide, the rest of the July 24th story, there was a fight, 12:30, 8:09 p.m. There were also 2 simultaneous fights in the front of Georgia Sports Hall of Fame and around the corner on MLK. The Turtle fighter was pepper sprayed and removed from the building at 12:40. Now, what the sheriff would like us to believe is that that pepper sprayed person ran out to his vehicle, got a ski mask, got his assault rifle, a .223, and came back and shot people on the corner of MLK. Didn't happen. I don't know if y'all ever been pepper sprayed or not. Didn't happen. He also won't tell you that a white sedan came up and delivered people at the corner of MLK.
Your time is up, Mr. Obligor. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm sure we'll hear back from you later. And I don't generally want to comment or set a precedent for commenting on there. But as of right now, the sheriff has made the decision ultimately to, under our ordinance, to remove or suspend the liquor license for up to 90 days. The commissioners have not received any documentation, and there's no action for us to take at this time. At some point in time between now and 90 days, if we receive the paperwork from the sheriff with any documentation or upon motion by any commissioner, we'll take the appropriate action at that time. There's nothing on our agenda at this time. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you all for listening.
We look forward to hearing from you again. Commissioner Wynn, you had a item of personal privilege tonight?
No, when this resolution we passed about paying the employees, will you give us a status at the end of this month, 30 days? Because I know it goes into September. Just let us know how many have come in.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. We will certainly do that, and you should get an email too as a part-time employee in that regard, but we'll certainly keep you abreast of what's going on, and we hope that the incentive pays off. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our meeting for tonight. We do have an MVP forum that's going on right now, Memorial Gym. Commissioner Watkins and Commissioner Bronson left a little bit earlier to be at that MVP forum, and we'll head our way there shortly as well. So this concludes our business tonight until we see each other again on August the 17th. Thank you.